Hi, very good morning to you. It's Jim from maverickstar Observatory. Before we begin, I want to just thank, a few people. It is always the case, and it's sad that that is the way things are. That, for us, so if we're lucky, people will chip in a few bucks for the observatory. We're moving into a new year, and certainly with that performance, things are looking pretty grim. I've got to, in the new year as well, if not before, get in touch with a few people that have got, equipment of ours, and if they're no longer interested in, sending us the data, at least they can do is send back the equipment, and I'll even pay for it as well. Some people have got some equipment, and, we've never got data from it. Can you believe that? In a world where what we face, with these anomalies, we've got people with mentality like that. We've got some superstars, to mention one of them, Kendall, in Canada, and I'm glad he's one of our people that never, without fail, lets us down. He sends data pretty much every week, and there's a bit of data I've got to process of his and add to the website later today. But we could do with more people like him. He is 999 pure gold. I wish I could say that about some of the others that have taken equipment, promised to have the enthusiasm, and then let us miserably down. We're probably the only ones on YouTube and on the internet giving people the data which we're giving them. And we also share some gold as well, some nuggets with them occasionally, with in regards to the information that like this is the national grid live in the UK, and I guarantee you, if you go whichever country you're in the modern Western world, you will be able to find statistics like this of how your country is producing electricity right now. What they reckon here at the national grid live is that they're producing 70% of the demand needed to run and keep lights on for the UK by renewables. And I'm sorry, I can't believe that that is the case, when on a ordinary other day the most that they can generate is 5%. This is being purposely misleading the public. That's what it's doing. On usual times, on any other day, the demand is at 35%, and they're saying that the demand today is 29.2% or 29.2 gigawatts, as opposed to usual 35. I'll tell you how they've achieved this, and I'll tell you how they're going to achieve their targets to make things look better, is by just whacking up the energy costs so that people don't use as much, and of course demand comes down, and with it they look like angels, don't they? Look, we didn't need to produce this much energy, and in turn, we're making things more cleaner. Like I said to you, you can make that 5% on a normal day look massively better by just simply people not using electricity or using the energy that's being produced. I've already proved my point. The demand's down by 6% or 6 gigawatts, and it makes the renewables look even much better. They're going to continue doing this at the peril of people dying because they can't afford to put the heating on this winter. We've seen some hellish winter scenes in the United States, which was promised. They said, can you believe this? They said this is global warming. Things are getting colder, and they're saying things are getting warmer. Like I said, if you want the truth, always look at the opposite of what they're saying. They say it's hot, it's cold. If they say it's good, it's bad. Always go 180 degrees from what they're talking about, and you won't be far from the truth. It just makes me laugh, I was at the service station this morning having a coffee, put a bit of fuel in the car, and I just sat there on the side of the service station just watching people drive by, and I'm surprised at how many Teslas are in the UK. While I sat there for a few minutes, at least 5 Teslas went past. Let me tell you something, if you own one of these cars, and for some reason you think you're an environmentalist, you're helping save the planet. Well, you couldn't be any further from the truth. You are misinformed, and you haven't done no research. Because if you did, you'd know that to build that car required, in terms of energy, 6 or 7 times more to build an average combustion engine car. And that in the entire life of that Tesla or any other electric vehicle, you will burn more carbon, probably 6 or 7 times more carbon in the end than anybody else. And not only that, you've managed to drive up everybody's electricity bill, because you want to plug that car in, don't you, in off-peak, so you get half-price electricity. Well, you know what, with the amount of electric vehicles on the road today, the National Grid can't afford to give it everyone for 50% discount, so we're all having to pay for it. So not only are you consuming, probably 50 times more energy than anyone in your street that doesn't have one of these Teslas, you're actually contributing to, adding more carbon into the atmosphere. Not that it makes any difference in here, because if you're a smart person, you realise that 0.4% of any gas in our atmosphere means nothing. It will contribute to nothing. And out of that 0.4%, 0.0012% of that is actually what man emits into the atmosphere. And it doesn't cause global warming. In fact, it's better for the environment, it's better for the earth. And you only have to look at some photos of before and after, which NASA have provided, of the greenification now of deserts. Why are they becoming more greener? There's more CO2 in the atmosphere. It won't last long though, I'll guarantee you that. The numbers we've already seen in the last year dropping on CO2 levels, yet no mainstream organisation or media outlet have decided to mention this. CO2 is falling as we speak right now, and that's not a good thing, because that greenification of deserts that we've seen over the last 30 years is going to start to undone. And what could have been arable farming land is now getting reversed. The Danish farmers have been told they've got to shut 3,000 farms. This is one of the second largest exporters of food in the world. Now, just think about this. In Ukraine, because of the war that has took place, it means that it's altered the agricultural production, which, again, like the Danes, feeds the poorest people in the world. What we've seen in Afghanistan over the last year is parents having to sell one of their children so that they can get through the winter with a bit of food. That's not right in any world. We shouldn't be seeing things such as this happen. But when you turn round and you want to shut down farms at that rate, you want to encourage wars to last longer than what they should, and in turn, just bury people in poverty. You have to, I suppose, think about what world it is we live in, because everything we seem to be doing today is the wrong thing. I've mentioned this time and time again before in previous videos, that if your organs went out for themselves, your heart, your liver, your lungs all went out for themselves tomorrow, the body would be dead. Yet we're seeing the communities all go out for themselves in a desperate measure of panic now. Over here in the UK, there's been a 300% increase in the need for food banks. And the people that are going to the food banks aren't no longer people on benefits. These are people with jobs. These are nurses, engineers. Something is wrong. If 2 people are working and they haven't got enough money to feed the family, and the result is that they have to go to a food bank, something is wrong. What I'm trying to do here is inform people of a rare anomaly which is taking place, the magnetic pole reversal, and also keep people informed of other anomalies, because I know that they're interested in, you know, how many volcanic eruptions are taking place, you know, what the largest magnitude of earthquake is, because of all the alarmism out there. You know, they say that more volcanoes are erupting than ever. It's not the case. Nothing's changed in 3 years that we've been tracking them every month. Nothing's changed. The average numbers of eruptions are still in place. You know, the magnitude of earthquakes has actually dropped in the last 12 months, believe it or not. Even though there have been a few significant earthquakes that have caused, you know, a substantial amount of damage. The actual frequency of these earthquakes occurring is actually reducing. Yeah, that's what we do on this channel and at our observatory. And it makes me laugh. You know, I don't know how we're going to deal with the mentality of people next year, because it's grinding thin on me. You know, saying, oh, you haven't even got an observatory, you just got a home. Well, I just don't know what to say to people like this. Because if you're collecting data at the rate we're collecting it every 3 seconds on that resolution, and you're also dealing with data that's coming in from different locations around the world, then you're obviously observing something. Am I right? The reason why I do it from home is because there's no way we could afford to rent premises. And as a result, you know, of doing it from home, I know that the equipment's been safe, it hasn't been touched or tampered with. I can keep my eye on it 24 hours a day. So it's the best scenario for this situation. What people envision as an observatory is this dome, you know, like, you know, people that are studying the constellations with a telescope. That's what they envision an observatory looks like. But it's an observatory. You're observing something. We built bespoke equipment to monitor those changes as they occur with our magnetic poles on this planet. We also added extra facilities for people interested in other anomalies like earthquakes, volcanoes, the Schumann frequency, other observatories, observations, and a lot of other things that's on poleshiftnews.com. But you know what? We need to improve not just the areas around the world that we've got at the moment. We need to improve the numbers on that. We need to also start talking to the people that have got equipment for us, and, you know, get them to either make a decision on whether they want to continue supporting the observatory, and if they do, then we've got to have some data coming at least once a month or once every 2 months, and if not, just send the equipment back and we'll put it in somebody else's hand. Because there's plenty of people offering right now to have the equipment. You know, those people are very, you know, there's a lot of people, but when you compare it to the amount of people that actually view these videos, you know, it's obviously just the refined gold, you know, the purest of them. You know, there's a lot of people I know here in the UK that have almost got to the ends of the tether and can't take any more of this crap. You know, they're sick of the prices of energy, they're sick of the prices of fuel, they're sick of the interest rates going up, they're sick of the talk of the inflation. They're on their tether's end. And I'm predicting something will change next year with all this. It's going to, in any case, let's face it. You know, how many times have we seen an empire collapse in our history? The Greek Empire, the Roman Empire, the Egyptian Empire, the British Empire. the Mayan civilization, all were wiped out. Guess what through? It wasn't just the corruption of politicians, it was the changing of environment. The Mayans ran out of drinking water. The Egyptians had to suffer the River Nile changes. And I could go on and on and on. It's always down to environmental changes. So if you think we live in a world where things are secure and they're going to be hunky-dory forever, it's not going to happen. It's just the nature of this world. It's not the world that needs to come to our demands. It's human beings that need to come to the world's demands. It will always be that case. We've got a few more days left of this year, and I'll be honest, I'll be glad to see the back of it. And I really wish I could be optimistic for next year. I really wish. But you keep telling people that things need to change, things need to improve, and then you get 4,000 or 5,000 people view a video and just 3 people chipping a few bucks, leaving it always down to just a few people to do something about things. You know what? Things have got to change. And not just change on this channel, but change in our communities. We need to do more. And those that have done nothing and sat on their asses need to do something. Because it's your community as well as everybody else's. And if you're sitting there doing nothing, you're just a burden on everybody else. The attitude needs to change, because it's that very attitude where I can't be bothered, I'll just leave it down to somebody else to do, and I'll get a good day's sunbathing in the back garden because it's beautiful weather. Let somebody else go and do the work. Well, we come back down to that scenario, don't we, where every organism goes out for itself and the body dies. It's no different from the community and the countries which we all live in. If we all do something about it, we can make changes. But if you think the attitude is, I'm not going to do nothing because he's not doing nothing, and the others ain't doing nothing, then watch how fast this empire comes to an end. The problem is with people today is they don't care about the future generations. If we go back to the 1940s, they were prepared to sacrifice their life for the future generations. You give up your life. It's a big thing. Risk losing your life is a big thing. We're seeing that sort of attitude right now in Ukraine. They're doing it. If you ask a lot of people in Ukraine why they're fighting, they're doing it for their future generations. It's their land. They want to keep it. They're not going to give it up. Well, if no one was prepared to fight, Russia would own right now Ukraine outright. So it comes down to, if you want to keep something, you've got to fight for it. You don't need reminding of this. It's a shame that a lot of people are listening to this right now that haven't got a grandpa or a grandma that went through the Second World War, because they would have said, hold on a minute, just before the war started, the Nazis was acting just like this. They were stopping people talking about certain subjects, banning them, like what has happened to me recently on this channel a few times, making sure that I'm always on my tiptoes, because one more strike and it's gone. This was the behaviour of the Nazis in 1939. And if your grandpa and your grandma was alive today, they'd tell you the exact same thing. They'd say, whoa, no, we're not having this. Do something about it. Panic. If you let this carry on, you don't know where this is leading to. We've seen it happen in our lives. That's what they'd say to us right now. I heard the stories which for some reason, I don't know why my nan never told anybody else. Some horrendous stories. And trust me, we don't want this coming back. Right there, right now, with the behaviour of the governments around the world and the mafia mobster, the United Nations, they've got to go. Trust me, they're all unelected. None of them are government officials. They need to go. That organisation needs to go because that organisation is responsible for net zero and this bullshit about CO2. Somebody needs to educate them fools. In fact, somebody just don't waste your time educating them. Hang the fucking lot. Hang them all like pom-poms off a bridge somewhere. Because they're worth nothing, any of them. They're achieving nothing for anybody apart from themselves. And they are a burden on this world. You know, the United Nations has more power than any individual country. Can you believe that? You know how much they're on? Salaries. Things have to change. You know, we can't just keep coming back to, you know, this channel and other channels like it just for a regular update of how terrible things are going. Things need to change. Action needs to be taken. Fail to act, fail to succeed. You've heard that saying before. Just can't keep going on like this because we're on a conveyor belt. And the conveyor belt goes into the ocean. And right now, someone at the end of the conveyor belt has water up to their ears. And just about barely keeping the nostrils above the water. But the person behind him has got water up to his hips. And the person behind him has just felt the water hit his feet. And trust me, there are another 10 people already under the water that have gone. So, something needs to be done to stop this conveyor belt. Because we're all going one by one. We're looking at this national grid live, and the reason why the demand is low is because people can't afford energy. The reason why renewables is showing 70% is because the demand is low and the amount of renewables doesn't change. On average, on a good day, it's 5%. So we're looking at a dramatic drop in demand, and that's because there's a dramatic drop in the people's purse at the end of the month, and they simply can't afford it. And that's why they did it. It was to drop CO2 levels. And think about it. Just think about this for 1 minute. If what you're doing to reduce CO2 into the atmosphere isn't working, and not enough people are buying electric vehicles and switching over to, you know, trying to generate solar for themselves, then the only other way to do this and get results is to increase the price of energy, and that's why energy went up globally. Because somebody realised that by increasing the price of energy, you reduce the amount of energy that people can afford to buy, and in turn you lower CO2. You don't have to be a scientist to realise it. You just need to see the wood through the trees. That's the truth. Guys, there's a link down there if you want to help support us at the observatory. I really hope that that is something you want to do, and I really hope that more than 4 people step up to the mark today, because we can't continue like this. Having 5,000 people watch, you know, the information we put out, and just 2 or 3 people chip in. That's not the way we want to be working. So there's a link down there if you want to help support. The only other thing for me to say is, you know what, for heaven's sake and God's sake, you know, look after your loved ones, because I don't want to see you with water around your knees on that conveyor belt. Say what I usually do. As always, bye for now.